This is 7 degrees.
7 degrees.
This is 7 degrees.
What's good? What's Gucci? We going. Welcome to the 7 Degrees podcast where we live in the liners. I'm your host, Trevor, aka Travis Rich, aka West Coast Charlie. And thank you for tuning in today. We got a treat for y'all. But if you're new here, let me give you the rundown. What we do every single show is we highlight the unknown and unlikely connections between your favorite songs and the newest releases to make sure you always have music to keep your speakers blasting. And this is a quick 7, meaning we will be doing an album review in 7 minutes, but don't worry, there is a playlist attached to make sure you're always on the hunt for new music. In today's playlist, of course, we have the featured artists, but we also have other Chicago rap favorites such as No Name, Chance the Rapper, The Mind, Joseph Chillums, and MF and Mello. And be sure to check our website, 7degreespodcast.com, for all of the show notes, that playlist, and everything to do with this episode. But let's get into why we're all here, Saba's Care For Me album. The Chicago rapper, best known for being featured on tracks from Chance the Rapper and Mick Jenkins, released his second studio album just a couple weeks ago, and my God, is it a treat to listen to. So without further ado, let's just get right into it for today's quick 7 on Saba's Care For Me album. Taj Malik Chandler, aka Saba, was born into the Austin neighborhood of West Chicago and born into a rooted musical family, as his father was an R&B singer, his uncle was a producer, and his grandfather played the guitar. He discovered he wanted to be a rapper when he heard Bone Thugs and Harmony with Biggie on Notorious Thug, stating, quote, "I should just be a rapper. This is great. I can do this." And so started his journey at only 8 years old with just a cassette recorder. Throughout his high school, although in the late 2000s, he would still hand out cassettes of his material because that is all that he had. However, he would soon be part of the burgeoning Chicago rap scene featuring No Name, Smino, Joey Purp, Mick Jenkins, and Chance the Rapper, all artists he has collaborated with frequently. In fact, it was his song Hose with Mick Jenkins in 2012 and his feature on Chance's Everybody Something on Acid Rap that propelled him to larger recognition. After his 2016 official studio debut, Bucket List Project with the Chicago Who's Who's feature list, he was able to present himself to a national audience with a unique sound and message. And today we look at his most recent release, Care For Me, which strips back the features and shows Saba in his most versatile project yet, but remains so intensely focused that every line is part of a connected and decidedly heavy tale of loss, artistry, and depression. From the first line saying "I'm so alone" in the song Busy, there's a clear isolation being placed within this album. Continuing on the first verse of that song, Saba sets up the major issues of the entire album with his coping mechanisms, particularly in his music, his isolation despite his perceived fame, the expectations placed on men, and most importantly his cousin Walter. Saba and Walter, better known by his stage name John Walt, were both part of the hip-hop group Pivot Gang, but became close mostly as they both tried to become successful as musicians in their mid-teens. However, on February 9th, 2017, Walt was involved in a fight which led to a fatal stabbing and his death at the age of only 24. The two-part song, Prom King, is the second to last song on the project and features 7.5 minutes of rapping with no hook and just an outro by John Walt, longingly singing, "I just hope to make it to tomorrow." On this song, Walter's influence on Saba becomes so apparent and left me so emotionally and mentally empty that all I could do was sit silently in my chair and wait for the final song to start, which seems like it took an eternity. The entire song details how Walter helps Saba get a prom day, which ultimately helped his self-confidence, but intersperses what it means to be a man with his grandfather handing him a condom and his date's brother holding a knife to his throat telling him to watch his back. The second part details their struggles as artists, but also the feelings of success they have as they begin to garner recognition and make a true living off their music, all for everything to only be cut so short by murder, a feeling Saba knows all too well having grown up in Chicago, which sees extremely high rates of murder in certain parts of the population. As mentioned earlier, Saba feels alone from the beginning as he describes himself as being busy, which is partially true due to his responsibilities, but also because of how the depression he is experiencing from the survivor's guilt is causing him to isolate. So to deal with this, he seeks the comfort of a woman whom he uses just as much as she uses him on Broken Girls, simply to cope as he sings "I'm in love with broken girls." But by the end of the song, he finds someone that he does love and that actually cares for him. And that's great, but that doesn't instantly resolve the heartbreak and the issues he experiences, as can be seen on Fighter, which discusses how he is expected to portray this facade of masculine physicality, but as he grows older, it becomes more of an emotional battle. First, it's with his grandfather, who chides him for pursuing music like his father and not getting a college education. And then, it's with his girlfriend because he is so not mentally there because of everything going on that he can't even hold a conversation with her, causing the one person he knows truly cares for him by choice to stray away, leaving Saba ever more alone. So, how does he bounce back from this? Through his music and his writing. One thing I think very consistently becomes forgotten with art is that at the end of the day, it is a very personal thing to practice and to a point a selfish thing to pursue as a career. It shouldn't be the artist's responsibility to make art for us, the consumer, but rather because they feel an inspiration. But if you want to eat and if you want to support your family, like Saba describes on Smile, you have to balance between this thin line of appealing to the masses and being honest to yourself, something he deeply delves into in the song Grey. That entire song is amazing commentary, but my God, that outro is brilliant, where you can see the evolution and practice that goes into every one of his verses.
Oh, well done.
Then you realize the pressure an artist with some clout is under. No matter what they release, everyone will judge it. And something I think any creative can relate to, when your expression is forced to become inauthentic through commercialization, you feel compromised. Then, when you add in the fact this was something he did with Walter, his cousin, and his friend, if he changes his style, does that affect Saba's memory of Walter and Walter's legacy on him? It's not an easy question to answer, but the album does try to reach a solution. It's keeping everything in context, why you are doing this and who for, and remembering this is always just an escape at the end of the day. I know we're running over on the whole 7 minutes thing, but I do want to highlight a few other things on this album, starting with the features. The Mind and Kana deliver terrific performances in Busy and Fighter, respectively, and Chance the Rapper delivers a good verse in Logout. But the amazing thing they do is they don't steal the show, especially Chance with the amount of name recognition he has and how he could have used that to command a lot of attention on this project. He delivers a very straightforward verse with no odd inflections or flow. The features in this album are sparse, but offer a brief third-person perspective to reinforce the internal storm Saba experiences and tries to make sense of in this album. With that, Saba's flow is amazing in this record. He had many inklings of how his style could be so versatile in Bucket List Project, but in Care For Me, it is more entirely realized and perfected. He fits every single beat like a glove, like in Life, where the chorus has so much irresistible bounce, or in Heaven All Around Me, where he delivers a slow, soulful, emotional performance from Walter's perspective as he leaves this earth, ending the project on a somber note of positivity, actually. The way he uses his voice, especially considering it is only him for 90% of the project, creates a seamless transition from one song to the next, so each track adds another vital chapter to the larger story without any of it becoming stale. Finally, the production by Day Day Pivot, Daoud, and Saba himself on this project is stunning. The jazz fusion, neo-soul stylings influence and create the dreamy atmosphere that truly reflects the internal state of the artist, something not easy to achieve at all. While we talked about the lyrics for the better part of this review, this is an album you can absolutely have in the background as well, as everything flows so well and introduces change to prevent staleness, but doesn't do so frequently that it seems frantic. Everything is meticulously planned out. This is the best album I've listened to in 2018. I think I've streamed it 6 or 7 times in the 2 weeks it's been released, and I want to keep going back to it every time. There's a different flow, a different lyric, a different beat to unpack, and each time you realize how a line in one song relates to a great idea in a later song. This album is a masterfully crafted project that explores on a macro scale what it means to lose someone, to be an artist, to be a man, and to grow up and learn life lessons. But everything occurs within Saba's mind, making it a deeply personal and effective message without being preachy in the slightest. This is an album you need to listen to again and again. This is a 9.5 out of 10. And that's not all I got, but that's where we're going to leave it for today. Thank you so much for listening to this quick 7. You know I really appreciate it, but I'm very, very glad that you listened to this one, especially because this is an album you need to listen to. It's something that I think is going to be revisitable in months' times or even years' times. I see it having that potential. There's just so much thought and care put into it, and when you combine that with the entire story, it really does make a truly impactful project. And I definitely want to know what y'all think of this album. I think it could hit different people in different ways, being such an emotional album. And to do that, you can send me a message, post on the wall, just connect with us at 7 Degrees Pod on Facebook and Twitter. That's the number 7 Degrees POD. It's in the description in case you just want to click on it. And be sure to follow us there, as there's always show updates as well as random music facts and song suggestions throughout the week. You can also send us an email at 7degrees@gmail.com. We'll be glad to hear from you there. Then mentioning the website one more time, that's 7degreespodcast.com, where you can find the playlist, the show notes for this episode, as well as every episode we have ever done. And finally, just to make sure you never miss a release and that you always have a little bit of 7 Degrees in your life, you can subscribe on iTunes or Google Play, your preferred podcast medium of choice. And if you like the series and you want to help us out, go ahead and leave a rating and a review. You guys know that I shout y'all out, and I want to be able to shout out what y'all are doing, because I want this podcast to grow with whatever endeavors you have going in your life. But that's pretty much all I got. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and after this, go listen to Saba's Care For Me if you haven't already. I promise you it's well worth the listen, no matter what your musical tastes are. Go have a great day, go listen to some music, but until the next time, I'm gone.